Living in the great state of Michigan, we're always hearing about how the auto industry has impacted the state. One of the biggest reasons for this is the presence of General Motors in Detroit. Throughout this presentation, we're going to be talking about the primarily advantages and challenges facing GM today. We got myself, Logan Taylor, joined by Alex Borst, Eric Cousins, John Kirby Gerlin, and Lucas Cantu. Going through, we've found this quote talking about just how productive and long-lasting General Motors is. Osama bin Laden is dead, but General Motors is alive. Just going through how we're going to divide this. We're going to start out with Alex talking about the introduction, the overview of the strengths and challenges, followed by the analysis tool that we used in Porter's Five Forces. It's going to pass it over to John to talk about GM's competitive rivalries. It's going to come back to myself to talk about the potential of new entrants. Then I'm going to pass it over to Luke for the possible substitutes and bargaining power. And finally, Eric is going to wrap us all up with the recommendation and discussion of what we're going to do moving forward.
All right, so GM was established in 1908. They have a very solid reputation for being innovative as well as producing stylish vehicles, which draws a lot of attention to the company. Quality and reliability have also gained General Motors a strong foundation of customers. For over 100 years, GM has been one of the leading car manufacturers to produce reliable vehicles. General Motors is in a good financial position as well. This allows them to attack new and upcoming markets. They have plenty of room to create new innovations to enter different parts of the automobile market. Right now, General Motors is actually working on introducing themselves to the electric vehicle market, and this is in order to keep up with the recent trends of electric vehicles being in high demand. Being in a stable financial position allows GM to compete with competitors and not lose their competitive edge in the market. GM produces GMC, Chevrolet, Buick, and Cadillac as their four brands. Each brand has a variety of vehicles that they produce. There's luxury vehicles, sports cars, small and large SUVs, a variety of sedans, trucks, vans, etc. No matter what type of vehicle a customer is looking for, General Motors likely has something for a potential customer to consider. And the challenges are they're kind of slow to the EV market. They're emerging now, but they kind of had a slow start. Ride shares are reducing the demand. Gen Z drives a little bit less as compared to other generations, and consumers are uncertain about the future of what the economy will be like. And the model that we chose was Porter's Five Forces. The competitive rivalry is controlled by the threat of substitute products, the bargaining power of buyers and suppliers, and also the threat of new entrants.
There is a tight competition in the automotive industry right now, especially with the arrival of the electric vehicle. GM get his strength with a strong brand incoming to the market and highly adaptable in upcoming technology. And one of the challenge for GM right now is Tesla because they are far way behind Tesla. And this is what we're gonna see in the chart in the next slide. As you can see in this slide, you see that in terms of sale of passenger electric vehicle in the US, Tesla sold 161,630 compared to GM, which is second, sold only 20,000. On the global stage, the competition ramped up even further. In addition to Tesla and the big three, GM also has to compete with firms like Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi, Geely, Toyota, Daimler, General Motors. Based on a study, they have a project. There's a projection in 2025 that GM will be the the eighth largest electric vehicle manufacturer in the world.
The next area, the potential of new entrants, there's very low potential of new entrants in the auto car market. One of the reasons is there are a lot of hurdles. Requires a lot of high capital, the technology to create the cars, strong supply chain relationships, and regulatory requirements. GM has all of this. They have a strong financial backing, and they have the economies of scope and scale to be able to create the cars and produce at a high rate that they need to. And if any potential entrant does happen to get in and establish the market due to new technology or anything like that, GM has the brand recognition, the consumer trust, and the financial backing to be able to create or build off that technology that the new competitors would have, and create that for themselves and try to get back in that market.
Now, taking a look at possible substitutes, there are a number of, or high potential for substitutes for GM. Obviously, John was talking about all the competitors there, especially on the global market, saying they are projected to be eighth. The challenges there for them indeed are those competitor products. And Alex mentioned at the beginning, those ride shares, so Lyft, Uber, are still growing markets in cities. A lot of cities that have a nice hold on the transportation markets there. Public transportation is continually evolving and getting better in some cities, not all cities, but some cities are putting more into that public transportation market. And then there's also used cars. So if the economy is not going great and somebody needs to find a car, they're not going to go buy a new electric vehicle. They will find an older vehicle that's been used. Then currently the economy is uncertain. There's higher interest rates now, volatile gas prices, inflation has been rising, and there's this looming possibility of a recession. So that would guide people not to want to go buy a new electrical vehicle. But as far as GM is concerned, their bargaining power is really good. There is low potential for bargaining power for their suppliers. So they are large, so they have the economies of scale, so they have more control on that pricing. They could use alternate suppliers, so they have no problem trying to find somebody else. And they could also produce in-house, so they have the economies of scope as well. So that was mentioned in part B of our project here, that they have both those economies of scale and scope. With having high levels of standardization, that allows them either to find a supplier that can just make this one product that can fit in a lot of spots, or take that in-house and do that themselves. Bargaining power is also low for their buyers, so they have a very strong brand, so people are more willing to pay the premium for that brand. They can trust that GM is going to supply a good product. And finally, the economies of scale allows GM to have more bargaining power than the individual consumers. They are the largest manufacturer of automobiles as far as the US manufacturers. And with that, losing a customer or two is not the biggest deal. The individual consumer doesn't have much of a say when it comes to what they have going on.
Great, thanks, Luke. So we came up with three main recommendations for GM to continue to take advantage of their strengths while overcoming their weaknesses or their challenges. First would be to continue investing in the brand through their advertising and their innovation. It's their strong brand recognition and brand image that will help them overcome the fierce competitiveness in new emerging markets like EVs and hybrids in existing markets as their traditional car manufacturing industry. Additionally, they can deepen their portfolio by continuing to have a wide variety of products. This will allow them the agility to pivot to new emerging markets and wherever those opportunities may lie. And finally, with the threat of substitutes, they can maybe look at innovative ways to partner with some of these substitutes to reduce that threat. So for instance, one of the ideas that we came up with was there's a lot of demand for cars among rideshare drivers for Uber or Lyft, or grocery delivery drivers. So what if GM came out with some options for those market segments that could look like something short-term refrigeration in vehicles for delivery drivers, or maybe there's some sort of interface in the back seat that Uber and Lyft riders could easily adjust temperature controls or music. But to wrap things up, we went through some advantages and challenges of GM, namely a strong brand recognition. This is fairly sustainable because they're in a pretty good spot now, and it's really theirs to lose. They just need to keep investing in advertising and innovating better products. Another advantage is a robust financial position. This will be a little bit harder to sustain, especially if there is a recession. GM should certainly be prepared for a recession by not taking any unnecessary huge risks, but they also can't be too scared that they fail to continue investing in the business. And finally, they have a deep portfolio of brands and product offerings. This one's tough to maintain, but it's also part of the brand identity. They need to continue investing in R&Ds and that they don't put all their eggs in one basket. For instance, SUVs and trucks have been, reigning supreme in the industry for a long time, but it's still good to have some good car options in case there is a recession and, consumers are hit pretty hard and maybe there's another chip shortage and you need a little more low-end basic options for consumers. Some of the challenges that we mentioned were uncertain future demand. GM can overcome this again by partnering with some of those potential disrupting substitutes. Another challenge is a rocky economic climate. GM can overcome this by, again, not being too risky. They don't need to be the first like Tesla here. They just need to sit back and they have enough financial cushion to do that, see where the Teslas of the world are making their mistakes, and then they can come in, offer better solutions to those problems that are being faced by the early adopters. And finally, another challenge is an ultra-competitive EV market. The EV market is new and untested, so we recommend that GM would use their branding messages around GM's long history and their quality to help convince consumers. We also went through Porter's 5 forces, where you talked about high competitive rivalry, low potential for new entrants, high threat of substitutes, and low bargaining power for both buyers and suppliers. And finally, we went through 3 quick recommendations. 1, invest in the brand. 2, maintain a deep product portfolio. And 3, explore ways to partner with potential substitutes. That wraps up our presentation on GM, and we hope that was helpful. Thank you for your time.